Welcome to this week's Acca podcast, sponsored by Sky Bet Acca Freeze. Tom, Jake and Joe with you to run through the schedule. Coming up on this episode then, it is an incredibly tough slate to deal with, so we discuss plenty, dismiss a fair few before settling on a fourfold at odds of above 8-1. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel to ensure that you never miss an episode, and remember to keep it fun. Never bet more you can afford. This podcast is 18 plus. Please gamble responsibly. Busy weekend of Easter action then. Let's reflect on it. We had 2 Accas, 1 lost, 1 won. Hooray. Joe, take us through it, as I believe you're involved in building both.
You are.
Yeah, it was one of those Mondays where, well, Monday's weird. One of those Saturdays, because Bank Holiday Monday really is a Saturday, isn't it? Where I genuinely went into it feeling pretty confident because we didn't do a podcast, but independently we all identified the same 3 teams in our lists that we sent around one another as a 5. So then you're going into it probably getting too excited, thinking this has got a really good chance, So when it was going close, I didn't anticipate that Stockport would go 1-0 down at home to Huddersfield, and debatable whether the Stockport penalty was a penalty, a little push from Matty.
Oh, Stonewall. Completely
unnecessary foul, but very, very happy that he did, and Ollie Norwood fired in the penalty in the 87th or 88th minute, which feels like a long while since we had a late winner for an Acca.
Yeah,
that, which is the best way that you want it to be. I was at the Barnsley game on Monday, completely meaningless match at home to Peterborough, and literally all I was doing was just following that on my phone instead. And there was only 2 matches still going in the EFL in the 100th minute.
Yeah,
which was the Portsmouth game. I think they finished in the 101st minute, and the Barnsley game, which was I wasn't really bothered about that one. But every other match had finished, so just waiting for Portsmouth to get over the line to win 1-0. So, it was exciting Monday. Nice way to finish the Easter weekend.
Friday saw then Burnley beat Watford in just an absolutely mad game there, that Watford were 1-0 up early, then had 2 players sent off. They then followed it up by getting another player sent off on Easter Monday. Bristol City, their promotion charge continued on Friday, took a bit of a hit on Monday, but it didn't cost them in terms of their position. Wrexham surprise one, and I'll chuck to Joe in a minute so he can share the comment he shared with me when we were discussing this Acca beforehand. They drew with Bristol Rovers. Tamworth playoff push in the National League. It looks like it peaked maybe a little bit too early. They were beaten by Solihull. And as I said there, then on Monday it was 8-1 the treble. Portsmouth beat Watford, Millwall beat Norwich, and then Stockport beat Huddersfield.
Yeah. We had an interesting tweet from Paul Williams, who got in touch to say that he had our Acca, the treble, on Monday, and that he read Jimmy's column, in which Jimmy put up Charlton to win at Wickham. They smashed them 4-0, and he put in Plymouth to beat Coventry on Monday. So he ended up with 129-1 winning Acca on Monday.
He's been added to the podcast rota.
Yeah, he will be on next week.
Yeah, when one of us is off. What Tom was alluding to for Friday, that I'm just looking for the screenshot that I sent around to all of you after it happened, that I messaged Tom on Friday saying if Wrexham don't win tomorrow, it'll be the worst upset that we've ever had in the Acca. 6 successive defeats for Bristol Rovers, beaten in 16 of 21 away games this season, scored 4 goals in their last 15 away matches. When going away to teams in 17th and above, they've got 1 point from 15 matches. 12 away games to teams in the top 14, scored 2 goals, and they fucking went 1-0 up at Wrexham, who got the best home record in the EFL over the last 2 seasons. And Tom replied, so it's definitely happening then. And honest to God. So we were actually really close on Friday. Less said about Tamworth because they just messed it up. I'm not going back to non-league again this season. But, oh yeah, I was very relieved, actually. You know, it's a funny one because if an Acca doesn't win, the worst thing is it missing by a goal.
Yeah.
So I was happy when I saw that Tamworth didn't win, because if that Wrexham one had cost us, I'd have been so devastated. But yeah, some things you cannot plan for it, can you? And all the big prices, like you're referring to there, Charlton, Plymouth on the Monday, it was similar on the Friday. The ones that we discussed on the Thursday, like these teams that could win at bigger prices, lots of them did. So the real shorty that seemed like the ultimate banker to build your Acca around didn't beat pretty much the worst team in the country.
Any other comments have we seen?
No, nothing that springs to mind. But that was our 7th Acca winner of the season. We've had put up 40 Accas and 7 winners, which is pretty good. Returned a £400 profit.
Who sent that in?
No, I'm just reading off from the website. We've got an article on the website, Acca Tracker. It's very, very it's all the details from every Acca that we've got in there. It's got links to all the previous ones as well if you want to go and check. We aren't lying. We were very honest about our tipping at Sporting Life, and yeah, I don't think there's going to be 40 Accas from now till the end of the season, so I think we can lock in profit for a second successive season.
I've got some teams. Plus 45 points last season, plus 40 currently, said there. So there is a challenge to potentially try and beat last season. Hang on, we mentioned, where's Jimmy? You mentioned...
Yeah, where is he?
Where's Jimmy? Jimmy was meant to be here.
Late substitution, which this is no slight on you, Jake, that Tom had prepared something for Jimmy.
I bought him in something.
Yeah, so he was devastated.
I bought him in Sheffield United's...
is it?
Jimmy. I found this at home and I didn't know if
brilliant.
any good to Jimmy, and if he wanted it. I don't know if he'd want it for the playoffs or anything, or obviously, not sure if he's got any need for it now. But I found this at home and I thought, that would be so good for him on the podcast, wouldn't it?
For listeners, Tom is holding up a massive flag that says Sky Bet EFL. We are going up.
On the Sky Bet EFL, we're going up.
While wearing his Leeds half zip.
Yeah, I could wear this like a cape for the rest of the episode, and I might.
I'm pretty sure that all week Tom has been wearing different Leeds United attire. I haven't seen him in non-Leeds United branded clothing this week. That is an actual...
You weren't in yesterday. I just wore a normal jumper yesterday. Yeah. And I thought I'll wear this for the podcast because you've had your Roll With It t-shirt. Yeah. Jimmy's wore a Sheffield United shirt. I thought I've actually worn nothing Leeds, but what a time to do it. I don't know what seasons this is from. I genuinely just had it at home. I don't know why I've got it at home, but I have a lot of just tat.
Save it for 2 years' time as well. You'll probably need it.
Yeah, no, it's just timeless, isn't it? Yeah. As well, as long as Sky Bet sponsor the league, it's timeless.
Congratulations to Leeds United.
That there.
I had a horrible moment with my kids on Monday. I live only like a little way down the road from a cricket club that is it's a really big like Leeds United bar. Basically, it's got like a mural of Norman Hunter on the side, and they have a coach that goes to every Leeds game. And on Monday, they had some little stalls outside where they were selling a load of Leeds United stuff. And I was taking my kids to the Barnsley game, and they really, really wanted to buy these Leeds United key rings, which is the first time where I've had to face this question. And they're like, "Oh no, Daddy, please can we have these Leeds United key rings? I want to put them on my school bag." And I was like, "We're going to the Barnsley game in 20 minutes. Your granddad's picking us up, and you can buy anything in the shop that you want." And literally, one of my sons said word for word, he was like, "But if we get a Barnsley key ring and we put that on our bag, everyone's just going to say Barnsley are rubbish. So we can't put that on our bag." And I said, "We'll talk about it in the car. Like, your granddad's going to be here soon." I was thinking, what I actually wanted to say was, I did it. I had to put up with that my whole life, so you need to do the same. But I thought, no, I'll sound like a boomer then.
You need to drill in that football is 98% the team you support is going to be bad.
Oh God, yeah.
There will be a 2% that's going to be great, and it will come. You'll never know, but it will happen eventually. On the wider point, the Easter weekend, obviously, I was joking about the promotion race and stuff like that, but it feels a little bit anticlimactic, doesn't it? We're on like this 3-team, unbelievable. It could go down to the last day, and obviously Burnley played Sheffield United on Monday, which had a direct impact, of course. But it just feels a bit like in the space of a week, less than a week, we've had this brilliant 3-horse race, and like that, it's over. And I don't know, it just fizzles out the season, but it felt like we've been deprived of that little bit of drama.
Just blame Sheffield United. I mean, they've lost 4 of the last 5, but it's something we've we've spoken
lost
about
4 or
ranking.
5 since Jimmy tried to play Joy Division. Love will tear us apart on this podcast.
It's funny you
Don
should say
panics
that.
because we don't have the rights to play it.
Jimmy's on red hot form when it comes to stuff like that. He tipped Swansea to go down. They've won the next 5 games after he tipped that. He tipped he said Chesterfield were on the beach. They're still banging the playoff chase, having won 6 of the last 10. So yeah, Jimmy's on a roll. But yeah,
he is like the touch of death.
Yeah. Delighted. Preston fans will be delighted because he's put them up to be relegated at 40.
So they're going to finish in the top half.
Congratulations to Paul Heckingbottom's side on survival.
But yeah, we've been speaking for a while about Burnley and Sheffield United and the fact that they're overpriced, but they're overpriced because they're quite fine margin teams, and there's always a chance that one of them was going to just fall away because the fine margins will stop going in their favour, and that's ultimately what happened with Sheffield United. Low scoring defeats, and ultimately they got out fine margined by Burnley on Monday to make it curtains. But I've got to say, like, looking at that playoffs currently, you've got Blades, Sunderland, Bristol City, Coventry. Obviously it could change, but I can't see any of those teams going up and staying up, so what's the point? Stay in the champ, lads.
The thing with the championship, that as much as it might be anticlimactic that we know who the top 2 are with 2 games to play, I mean, it's only 2 matches. You got to look right. The Premier League, we've known for probably like 6 weeks at least who was going to win the league, and then if you think we still don't know who's going to win the title in the Championship, I don't really think it particularly matters because getting to the Premier League is such an enormous thing. But to think that with 2 matches to play, there are still 2 playoff places to play for, and all 3 relegation places.
At the bottom's fun, isn't
That's pretty cool for 5 of the places in the league being up for grabs still, of significance. So, yeah, I think it would have been greedy of us to think that everything would still be to play for with 2 matches to play. The Championship's been pretty good this season.
Yeah, we'll obviously have the playoff preview episode just before we obviously all that kicks off. That's to come as well. We'll talk Championship shortly when we build our Acca. Before we do that, does anyone else want to talk about anything else that's happened this week? It's all been one big blur, or should we just get into it?
Yeah, I think we just get into it now, yeah.
Starting the Premier League then. There are 3 games at 3 p.m. Southampton have long been relegated. Leicester, 4 games, at 3 p.m. Leicester have since joined them. Ipswich will be joining them very, very shortly. All 3 are in action. Is there anything in the top flight that appeals to us as a potential Acca pick?
I mean, it's very tempting to just oppose both the 2 teams you mentioned there that are already down again. Fulham
really good prices.
Southampton, which
really good prices for 2 awful teams.
And Wolves 4-7. I definitely would lean more towards Wolves than Fulham. Fulham's record against bottom 4 teams is actually pretty poor this season. They've only won 2 of their 7 against teams currently in the bottom 4. They've fallen to pieces a little bit in the sense of they got themselves in front against Chelsea and then were just comfortably second best. They were second best in the FA Cup game against Palace. They were okay against Bournemouth, but obviously struggled to score a goal. And Southampton, this is the question I had written down. So they drew level last week with a 1-1 draw. They drew level with Derby's record points tally. What are the scenes if they get another point this weekend? Are Southampton fans clapping and cheering because they avoided that?
They clapped him off after being relegated as one of the worst teams in one of the most disgraceful scenes the Premier League's ever seen, to clap them off after that.
Will they be cheering if they get another point to avoid that? Are they that desperate for something to cheer about?
No idea. Absolutely no idea. I was in Stratford on Saturday actually, just after, and I wasn't going to the football. I was going to Aber Voyage, which is in Stratford. So obviously I was walking against the traffic.
Vulture.
West Ham fans who were coming back, and just the resignation on their face of just what an awful season it's been. And the same with kind of Southampton. Like, it was just an area, we were in the pub beforehand. Nobody was happy. Everyone just wanted football to end eventually and just get out of the way with. On Wolves, who we've mentioned there, they are 4-7 for a home win over Leicester. Now you can say pressure's now off Leicester. It's done.
For months, hasn't it?
But it's been coming for months. They are now facing a Wolves side who have won their last 5, are in brilliant form under Vitor Pereira. First comes the points, then comes the pints, and then he'll appear in the Wetherspoons in Wolverhampton very shortly afterwards. I know it's 4-7, but considering the contrasting form and showings of both sides, it's slightly big, that, from the Premier League offering.
Yeah. And I think the interesting thing is that all of Wolves' 5 straight wins have come against bottom 7 teams. So all, against struggling teams, they seem to be picking them off. The only nagging doubt about both of them is both Leicester and Southampton opposing them is just the fact that the shackles are well and truly off. Like, you get some freak results at this time of the season where teams who have nothing to play for, be it players playing for maybe contracts or potential moves who want to continue to play well. Wolves now, they're guaranteed safety. They haven't really got anything to play for other than just a home win. So that's the only doubt. And I think it's something that we'll see as we go through the leagues, is there's quite a lot of short price favourites where you just look at and go, I don't know if I want to take that, but I would, I'll happily be swayed.
Yeah.
I mean, say that a Wolves win. I mean, Wolves, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that they could finish 12th, maybe, in the league. There's 7 points between themselves and Palace, who are obviously in FA Cup action this weekend. It would represent something quite significant if they can not only transform from relegation to survival, but to do so in such convincing fashion and then say, Jesus Christ, if there was a couple more weeks of the season, we could have maybe finished in the top half. I think building on something into the next campaign, there's probably more emphasis on actually winning games at this point to do just that.
I think that probably in terms of building an Acca for Saturday, I'd be wary of having like either of these fixtures like in early on, because to Jake's point, then they are pretty short, and it's not like either of Wolves or Fulham, we'd say, are particularly reliable. The other two are reliably bad, but the Wolves angle, the thing that would just have me slightly edgy about it is that as much as they might be playing to get into mid-table, that game ends as if it ends as a draw or whatever, no one cares at that ground. Like, the players aren't really that arsed, and I'm not really sure I want to be having that in an Acca at 4-7. The Fulham at 4-6 to win at Southampton, who were shockingly bad. Yeah. Probably, yeah, because Fulham's run of fixtures has been horrifically hard, and it still is for the running. And they've got a chance of securing European football. Like, if you look at the team, like Fulham have done really, really well this season. They've got a top manager, but they've had Chelsea, then Bournemouth away, Liverpool at home, Arsenal away. They had Palace in the Cup, which that really knocked them for 6. Spurs at home, who they beat. Brighton away, Man United away. Like, that was their run of fixtures, and then it gets harder again after this. Villa away. Everton at home, who they're transformed. Brentford away, that's a derby. Man City at home. So their fixture list has been really difficult in the running. Still, all that being said, I would prefer to look at other leagues and then say these two, they're probably reliable to a degree, but the price would box us in to have more than 3 teams. Can we make it 3 if we're struggling for reliability this weekend?
Anything else in the Premier League, or should we try and move on then?
Newcastle 2-9.
I'd rather have Wolves at 4-7.
Yeah,
Brighton West Ham looks a horrible game, doesn't it? Try and predict
Potter's return. I'm not nothing else in the Prem.
Yeah.
Move on then.
On to Champ.
Right, nothing in the Prem then. We'll head to the EFL to build our Acca next. Into the Championship there, where we have 2 games at 12:30. One, mentioned the title at the start, if it's such a big thing. Burnley are at QPR, and then Luton Coventry, a huge game at both ends of the table there. They're the early kickoffs though. Before we get into the 3pmers, actually, I did want to bring up on the topic of Championship and to get your thoughts on the news that came out yesterday. If you are a promoted side and you're happy to just upgrade your players and try and get the best squad possible, would you do the same with a manager?
Depends who's available.
So it came out from the Mail, reported yesterday, that Leeds could sack Daniel Farke, who won them promotion to the Premier League just 2 days ago.
Yeah. Were there any names that were bannered around?
I mean, Jose Mourinho keeps getting linked because he did that thing, didn't he, after Fenerbahce? I'd like to go maybe to an English club that's not in Europe, and obviously he's going to be linked everywhere on there. It's basically down to, they say, who, and I will point out, the Mail have done a lot of things they've done behind the scenes of the owners, big plans for Leeds and stuff like that. So in terms of connections, it seems that they are well connected. They've got reservations about his ability in the top flight, given his records with Norwich. Just wanted to throw it out and to see your opinion on, would it be fair for any club to do it, but obviously as the example for a manager who could potentially get you 100 points in the title to then get sacked ahead of the new season and to not even get a stab at trying to get them going in the Premier League?
I mean, my opinion is that it wouldn't be fair, but at the end of the day, the club's got to do what they think is give them the best chance of surviving. And if you're talking about someone like Jose Mourinho and him being able to come in, then it's a bit of a no-brainer. Like you do that. But if it's someone else like I don't know, like I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head, but somebody who's like a unproven manager and
Danny Roll.
Well, no, Danny Roll, yeah. Again, unproven. You're taking a bit of a risk, and you could argue Falk deserves a crack. And if you're going to spend money getting a manager, you should spend money improving the squad, which will obviously help him have a better time of things. But yeah, ultimately, if there's a better option available, I think you should do it.
If it's the cutthroat nature of football as well, is it going to be the new practice for promoted teams to do this? If it happens,
yeah. The flip side is that you do what we've seen Leicester, and I know Leicester's slightly different because they lost Maresca, but Southampton, where you come up with a manager from the Championship, you basically waste half your season, and then you're having to kind of throw shit at a wall and hopefully something sticks. And
the Southampton thing, I actually disagree with. I think they did
they shouldn't have sacked him.
Yeah, the complete opposite wrong. Should back them. Yeah, I've got to back them completely, like Ipswich have, and they're actually in a really good position, aren't they? They're gonna get relegated. But it's been so close so many times. Like they've been in nearly every game. I think they've only had 2 heavy defeats all season. And you feel like they're going into the Championship in a really good position and their manager will have developed a lot from it. I think Leeds are they're a different case to most clubs because they've recently been in the Premier League and they are the potential to be like Aston Villa, basically.
So if you were Burnley, would you do the same?
Absolutely not with Burnley, because I think I think it would be really, really harsh on Farke, but I think it's a case by case thing. So it's no different to saying. So do you know, if you've got a team or a squad that's just come up from the Championship and they're all 23 years old, and then you want to be able to let them go into the Premier League because you know that they're going to develop and get better. If you've got a manager that you believe is a Championship expert and they've kind of reached their ceiling of development and they're not going to be better, Scott Parker will be a way better manager in the Premier League this time around than he's been the last time. He's gone. You look at the experiences that he's had. This is by far and away the best that he's managed in the Championship. I think other clubs will be looking at Scott Parker.
Tottenham have been linked with him in the summer.
How far he's developed, come back from the setbacks and got better each time. So he is a really developing coach. And then I think it depends on how they're assessing the current manager at Leeds United and thinking, is he going to be better than he was last time, rather than just viewing what he did previously, because coaches can develop the same as players can. So I think it's very one-dimensional to think because he was poor last time, he can't be a better coach 10 years later. Everybody gets better at their job over time, you'd like to think, especially in like a high-performance sport. So case by case, I would say.
Going back to that, I mean, do you hold Parker in that higher esteem? Or am I missing something? Because I feel like every time he's managing the Championship, he's had the best squad or one of the best squads in the Championship. And then he's gone to the Premier League and he's gone to shit and he's been sacked.
I think he had a tough job at Burnley this time around. I didn't realise actually until I looked.
The turnover, yes.
47 players in and out.
The turnover, and it's the fact that the
turnover is still top.
Turnover was players who were in the squad on the first day as well. Like this was like he had to do. Who was it? So in their squad against Luton on the opening day, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those who were in the squad. So. In between a half and a third, basically, that have all gone, and that was afterwards. And then they kind of had to get players in late to sort of replace them. Jadon Anthony was one. I think he came quite late into the window that they had to do so. So I think this time around, I'd probably agree it's his most impressive, in that there's a huge turnaround there that then they've had to deal with, and they also just came crashing out of the Premier League as well. It's hard to pick, as Luton have seen, it's hard to actually pick up a squad to go again.
I think the hardest thing to do is, do you know, when there's a certain view of a manager or a player, and especially if it's been like a prevailing view for ages, to like take a step back and realise, you know what, it was probably a bit harsh. And like we all do it as football fans, or like us talking on the podcast. But if you go through Scott Parker's career, if he was not somebody who had been a player in the top flight, played for England, he had all these things, like he got Football Writers Player of the Year playing for a crap team, and he had all that. So he's got all this extra baggage that people are quick to jump on him. But his career as a young manager is phenomenal for a young English manager. But we're so quick to jump on people. It's actually outstanding what he's done at the point in his managerial career. But we're like looking at what he hadn't done.
But you're saying that he's linked with
He left after like...
He's not done enough to deserve that job.
He left after like three or four games.
Only 31 games unbeaten currently.
It's insane.
But we talk about week in and week out of this championship and just the EFL in general. Shit, like the quality is rubbish. And if you've got one of the best teams in the league, you should be going unbeaten for long periods of the season if you're going to win the title, or go up automatic, which is what Leeds and Burnley have done. Like I don't think he's outperforming expectations. I think he's doing what he should do with that squad. That's what I'm saying.
Start of the season,
and then you link it in with like jobs like Tottenham. He's not ready for that.
Well, at the start of the season,
he's not showing me enough he can do.
When we're talking about how Burnley are going to do, then
we all said top six.
The general consensus was that they weren't going to be automatically promoted, and they've gone 30 plus games unbeaten. I think it's objectively.
You called a title, to be fair, if you want to brag a bit.
Objectively, he has done a good job, and I do think that it's a weird thing that we tend to do with English coaches and like former England players, is to look at what they've not done rather than look at like what they have done. And he's got promoted from the Championship 3 times
with 3 of the best squads in the Championship every single time. Like
Tottenham have
no, but if you put Gary O'Neill in charge of this Burnley team, I think they go up automatically as well.
Mourinho,
Gary O'Neill, who took Parker's job at Bournemouth, kept them up, and then was given the sack, and they brought Iraola in. I don't think there's too much difference between Parker and O'Neill. Personally,
Tottenham have hired proven winners time and time again, and that's not worked. So why not go for the cliched knows the club?
I'm not saying
someone who's developing.
I'm not saying he's a bad manager. I do think he's a better manager than Lampard's. He's up there with the Gerrards if you're comparing him to fellow ex-pros. But I don't think he's like needs to be put up. He's the next man in for a job like Tottenham or anything like that. I don't think he's there. I think he's got a bit more to prove. If he keeps Burnley up next season, fair enough. I think he's proven he's more than ready to have a crack at one of those jobs. But to be linked with Spurs, I mean, if I'm a Spurs fan, I see Scott Parker coming from. Oh, brilliant! I can't wait for that. Or you go get Ralph Hasenhüttl or someone like that, it'd be a bit more exciting. But yeah, I'm not hating on Parker. Like I only hate on Frank Lampard, not Parker. I think he's okay, but I do think he's been very fortunate with the squads that he's.
The case in point there, though, is like Ralph Hasenhüttl. He's got Southampton bottom of the Premier League, and we're talking about what an amazing manager he is compared to Scott Parker. That is the case in point that I mean about. It is a lot harder to establish opinion about how good you are as a former England player, English coach. That is just objectively the way that it goes. If you can go abroad and do well in other leagues, it is much easier to then jump yourself into a Premier League role, which is why
I don't disagree
it would
with
be
that.
like dangerous for it to become a thing. Champion.
So like Will Still, for example, like Spurs fans, like, oh yeah, Will Still.
You've taken us well off topic here, Tom.
I'm going to take us back. Okay, the last question I will ask: if you're Tottenham, would you hire a manager who's 12th in the Bundesliga currently?
No.
Okay, well, Ralph Hasenhüttl's
that was just
12th in the
that was just an
Bundesliga
example
currently.
that came top of my head because he was in vogue a couple of years ago.
Where were we? Championship. Burnley are at 12:30, so can't even have them in the Acca. That's pointless. There are 8 games though at 3 p.m. Oh, it's the cliched. It's so hard to call. Even more so at this time of year. But then some of the prices that are floating around this weekend just look mad when you compare and contrast the two teams over the course of a season.
And reel off some of those mad prices.
Preston are 87 to 100 is not a real price. 17 to 20 against Plymouth, which okay, that's a bit more. But like Blackburn 3 to 4. I know we spoke about their upturn.
Watford have got
in form. Watford, and stuff like that. Cardiff 5-4 to beat West Brom. Cardiff under interim manager Aaron Ramsey, and the one that we have to look forward to next week, which I'm sure we'll discuss then, is when Jack Wilshere comes up against Aaron Ramsey in the managerial dugout. But that Middlesbrough 8-15, 1-2 to beat Norwich. Norwich, yes, okay, they're under caretaker guidance as well. But is anyone backing Middlesbrough to win a game of football at 1-2 at the moment? No, they are not. It's just that weird time of season where, Sunderland 13-8, they've got nothing to play for. But then you look at the course of a table and you don't just want to go, wow, we can bin it off now, we know we're going to be in the playoffs. You want to build some kind of momentum as they go to Oxford. Derby 9-4 in great form against a Hull team who a little bit hit and miss. It's pricing that is very, very difficult to navigate at the moment in this league.
It is really hard.
Is this where we're going to say we've got nothing in the Championship, having spent 15 minutes talking about anything?
The Championship ones that I noted down, and it's not even like whether I like the prices or not, it's the only ones that I would even consider were Blackburn to beat Watford, but 3-4 just has me like. But like we discussed last week, there has been a notable change in Blackburn's defensive process, and then that was opposing Millwall at Blackburn, and they beat them 4-1. And then that's continued because they won at Sunderland as well. And Blackburn can make the playoffs. It's insane because everybody's dropping points above them. Watford have got nothing to play for. They only lost 1-0 at Portsmouth the other day, but they conceded nearly 3.5 XG, only created 0.6. That was their third defeat in a row. And away from home, they've been terrible all season. So it's really not one that I would say I'm not having in because it is a team that have got to win against a team that's got nothing to play for, a team in great form against a team that's in poor form. So I think that the traditional pricing of where teams are in the league just goes out of the window at this stage of the season.
You know as well that playing against Watford, you're going to be playing at least half an hour against 10 men.
I mean, Watford have got 2 players suspended.
3, I think.
Is it? So
2 will be back because they were...
Oh, yeah, it's Easter weekend, wasn't it? Yeah, sorry.
Those idiots. They could have had the season off if they got a straight red. It could have been done.
So, yeah, that would be the first one in the Championship. Bigger price, Oxford to beat Sunderland at 9-5. We discussed this again on the last podcast, and it bore out because did Sunderland lose both games over Easter weekend? Lost to Bristol City on the Friday and at home to Blackburn on the Monday. Both with changed 11s.
Yes, it was Blackburn.
The thing that would slightly concern me about this is Reggie Lebris going to start playing a better team because he's in danger of really fucking everything up here by not playing a strong 11 because they're just losing every single match. 3 defeats and a draw or something the last 4.
Yeah.
But Oxford are a well-organised team. Make life really difficult for everybody. And then the last one, Plymouth to win at Preston 7-2. They've absolutely got to win. And Preston are awful. They are sleepwalking potentially into the relegation battle. And Plymouth are way better than bottom of the league in the Championship.
Forgetting though, Jimmy's tipped them to go down, so now they're sent.
Oh, yeah.
Guaranteed.
Printed out they're the only 3 games, beyond an Acca, just as bets that I would go anywhere near.
Yeah.
It's difficult, isn't it?
I think the only one of those I would be on board with is Blackburn because I do think Watford's heads have completely gone. Like they have gone. The disciplinary record's one thing, but just performances have just been awful for a long period of time now, and not surprised because they were overperforming the data at the start of the season when they were up near the top 6. That's fallen away. Yeah, that's the one I would definitely be looking at, and I think Blackburn, whether they get in the playoffs or not, Ismail came in. There was a real wobble, wasn't there? There was quite a lot of angry fans that were unsure about him, so I think he needs to continue winning just to get them on side ahead of the summer. So yeah, that's the one I would definitely look at. And
can definitely still make the playoffs as well. They really, really can.
And then the Sunderland one, I want to swerve that. I don't think I want to go near that because I think, like you said, Sunderland at some point they're going to have to click into gear and actually start trying to win matches to get some form ahead of the playoffs. There's only 2 games left before that, so they'll want to go in with something. The only other one I had down was more on need than anything. It's not going to go in the Acca. It's not a confident bet, but Millwall, their home form's been really, really good. But they're playing Swansea, who have just been exceptional.
Really good under Ireland Sheehan, haven't they?
Yeah, five straight wins, and all 5 have been deserved. So, there's a lot to like about Swansea. So just leave it alone.
Let's open up to League One as well then, because I feel like we will revisit Blackburn, because I know I say it's a short price, but then I suppose you look at the entire slate as a whole, and it's kind of Watford, and you've seen their disciplinary performances, particularly over the last couple of games, and you can question the nature of the Friday red cards, but still, it still happened. League One, it feels there is a bit more to go at here. I think when I was looking, I kind of typically find that League One's a bit of a happier hunting ground for Acca building. And there are a few games that are here that the prices have held up, and to kind of include them, I'd say that they're there. The first of which I would mention would Stockport at home to Lincoln. I feel like this is one that a lot of people will have probably in their weekend Accas. I'm just trying to quickly get the table up because I've lost it. But Stockport, even though they're in the playoffs, there's still a lot to play for, because mathematically they can still get top two, that they're not at the moment.
Well, let me
run you through the permutations.
The race for the second automatic promotion place is, I mean, it'll be really annoying if the results go badly on Saturday and it's all over, but it really is up for grabs. So even though Stockport are 5 points off second, because of them all playing one another in the final two fixtures, then it really, really could still be that Stockport finish second. So Stockport, they play Lincoln, toughish game in the final game, but then they play Wickham on the last day of the season. Charlton play Wrexham at the weekend.
Late kickoff as well, I think it's televised.
And Leyton Orient are playing Wickham this weekend. Wickham in really bad form, Leyton Orient in great form and in sixth. So results go their way, and it is very conceivable that you're going to have a point separating second to fifth going into the final day of the season. 2 points separating, second to fifth. So it really still is up for grabs because of who's playing one another. So it looks like it's all over, but it's really not, because it just comes down to a match play situation, and it couldn't have been set up much better, really. And Charlton winning, thrashing Wickham away from home on Monday is what set it up, which is great. And Wrexham beating them when they played them 2 weeks ago. So they still can do it.
Any concern about Lincoln? Drew at Charlton, beat Reading recently in away games.
Yeah.
And I think this weekend you're going to just have a look past stuff, aren't we?
They have got nothing to play for. They're in good form and beating in 5, but away from home they've lost 8 of the last 15. Lost at Wickham, lost at Birmingham, lost at Leyton Orient. Like I said, they did draw against Charlton, but Stockport at home have been phenomenal. Last 15 games they've won 12 times. They've dropped points to Birmingham, Charlton, and then the only defeat came in a really weird one against Mansfield. So apart from teams like I said, Birmingham, Charlton, they've just beaten everything in front of them really at home. So there's definitely plenty of reasons to get on side with Stockport.
Lincoln are in good form, but you just got to bite down on it. Stockport are a better team. Stockport are in good form as well. Yes, Lincoln are in pretty good form, but they've got nothing to play for. Stockport have got everything to play for, and you just got to get on with it and back Stockport.
Stockport then, to beat Lincoln, we're actually starting to build somewhere. Yes. 17 to 20, the best price on that one. 5 to 6 generally elsewhere. Where else? Who else we got?
I quite like the look of Peterborough at 13 to 8. It's partly down to Peterborough, obviously their form's improved, but also Bolton. Like we talk about Watford and just their heads completely fallen off. I mean, Bolton fans are just scrapping with each other every time they get the opportunity. It seems like was it the Barnsley game where they were going at? Was it Jimmy that was at the Barnsley game?
Tumbling down the stairs,
of Bolton fans just fighting with each other. They've lost 4 in a row. The playoff chances are over now, so they're just kind of just wishing the summer to come faster if possible to get there on the holidays. They've lost 4 of the last 5 away games, and they come against like Bristol Rovers, Blackpool, Barnsley, Lincoln, so teams that are not, any good or consistently good. The only win in that time was a 92nd minute winner against Wigan, which is a bit of a local derby. Peterborough strong at home, only 2 defeats in the last 9. One of those was against Birmingham, the other was Northampton. They were both in the week before that Wembley final, so a little bit of an asterisk for me there. Bit of a party atmosphere as well. They'll probably still be celebrating that success, and I just thought 13 to 8 looked a little bit too big for a team that are in decent enough form, still scoring plenty of goals, and the final home game of the season.
Thoughts on this? It's
tricky.
Tricky.
Yeah, tricky. So I like the price. I noted it down. My slight concern with it is, do we want to be getting involved in a game where neither side's got anything to play for at all? And I went to Barnsley against Peterborough on Monday. Barnsley played really well, but it was a classic end-of-season game where it just lacked that cutting edge, where they weren't, on the beach is like a really, I think, harsh term to describe sets of players, but it clearly lacked that bit extra. And both teams, Barnsley were pushing for a winner. Peterborough weren't like game managing it to get a draw, because neither teams were really that arsed. When it finished 1-1, they were both like happy enough that they didn't lose.
My only question is, I've not done any research for this now, but I will do some research after the show. When it comes to the final home game of the season, do the home team pick themselves up more to play better? Because obviously they want to send the fans off for the summer happy. They've got that round, they do the lap of the pitch and they get clapped and stuff. So if you go play badly and lose, how many people are going to hang around for that kind of stuff?
Well, it depends how much you hate your manager as well, I guess.
Yeah, so this is Peterborough's last...
We want this bloke gone.
I think it's the last home game. I know they've got a game in hand, so we'll just have to double check. But yeah, just something to think about as we move through the leagues. It's final home game. Does anybody pick themselves up? And I will do some research and get some actual figures on final home game results. But yeah, that was just a point I wanted to make.
It's a good point to make. I mean, on that topic, I was going to ask you about Barnsley.
Is their final home game, Peter?
Brilliant, right. Yeah. I did want to bring up Barnsley because even though they're 8-13...
Yeah, me too, actually.
A Shrewsbury team who are atrocious, and I believed at one point, I got suckered in that they'd, under Gareth Ainsworth, would stay up because they did have a little revival at one point. If you're not following kind of what happened, it kind of started to go wrong. He's gone. I'm not doing this. He's gone to Gillingham, is it? It's obviously closer to kind of where he was previously living. They've had a takeover that was going to happen. That's collapsed. Kind of Shrewsbury, the last of a generation of local businessmen come good who kind of own their local football club, the club they support, and kind of stabilise them. No secret that he's now trying to sell the club. I mean, it's a nice part of the world, Shropshire and that area, but you can't imagine people are going to be rushing to buy the club. There's a concern there. I would be very interested to know what prices relegation open up for League Two on them going back to back. There could be a potential at this point. Michael Appleton's currently in charge. He was saying, I need to know what's going on here, basically. I don't know what's happening in the summer. And they go to a Barnsley team who, I mean, maybe it's flawed the point of playing enough to play for, but I was looking...
It's the last home game.
It's the last home game, though, and we're going to say that teams always win. But for me, it was more like, you look at some of the results that they've had under Hurahan, who's now got the job permanently. If you all want to feel old, that is Conor Hurahan, that is now a manager permanently. But I know they lost 6-2, but they scored twice against Birmingham. They scored 4 against Bolton, 3 in defeat against Leyton Orient. If they can put that similar sort of attacking performance in, this Shrewsbury side just want the season to be over. Let's just get out of here, please. If Barnsley score 3, if Barnsley even score 2, are you back in Shrewsbury to have it within them to get something? I am not certain that they will do that. It's a short price, but on a kind of this penultimate weekend slate that is tricky. I mean,
I can't in good conscience back Barnsley at 4-7 to beat anyone, to be honest.
They've clearly shown there's some kind of spark in attack that they can just here we go, we can do it.
Yeah, I just can't. It doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter who they were playing. That one of the big positives in the last couple of weeks as well has been a change of formation, and then they've been able to get Fabio Giallo into the attack. He's out for the rest of the season. No idea how bad his injury is. He got stretchered off on Monday, so the ability to fashion out those higher quality chances that they have been doing is definitely going to have taken a hit. So it's just a bit of experimentation. They made some changes for that game on Monday. They'd just be a team I wouldn't be betting on for the rest of the season, to be honest, for or against. But they've definitely shown positive signs for next season. The other match that I've got down for League One is Crawley. So I backed Crawley personally, and when I was chatting with Jimmy when we were both working at the weekend for the Monday, Acca, Monday Acca. And they just swept Exeter aside, and Exeter were on a really good run. Northampton Town are safe now. They'd been under some good form since Kevin Nolan took charge. Crawley have done phenomenally well since Scott Lindsay took over. And the games that they've lost, other than one result, I think, have been against really good teams and been really close. They had that game at home to Peterborough where they conceded in the 95th minute to lose. They got a brilliant point away at Birmingham City. And they are right in it. They can still stay up. I would be taking them at even money against another relegation battler who have got nothing to play for now because they're safe. So it's just come in a little this morning because I had it down yesterday at 11 to 10, I think.
21 to 20 I had it yesterday, but yeah.
So, yeah, I would be backing Crawley.
I'm all on board with that. I can get involved with Crawley because I did want to, on a similar theme actually, Burton to beat Cambridge 10 to 11.
See that? I'm more interested in Crawley than the Burton one because Cambridge is still alive and kicking as well.
I don't know.
Well, there's 5 points between Cambridge and Burton. If Cambridge win, then they're 2 points from safety.
But I think Burton are better.
I'm no doubt that they are, but 10 to 11 in a game where both teams have to win, I think, is a little bit too short.
So currently, the team we're definitely settling on is Stockport to beat Lincoln. That's the only one we have so far. Before we've discussed a lot of teams. That's the one that we're definitely locking in. But what I will say about Burton Albion is that after a 1-1 draw with Crawley on February the 8th, they were 11 points adrift of safety as we now sit on 44 games played. 43 for Burton. They are outside of the relegation zone on goal difference. Gary Bowyer has done a phenomenal job, narrowly beaten by Birmingham. They picked up a 0-0 draw with Exeter. They beat Huddersfield 3-0 in the home game previous to that, 2-1 against Leyton Orient in the home game before that. Then Bolton narrowly won. They got a draw with Mansfield. So at home particularly, they are picking up points. I think it's a phenomenal job that he's done, and I think with a couple more home games to go as well, the advantage is certainly with them both in the table and the fixture list, that I think they're a really solid bet at the price.
Yeah, like I said, I just don't know if we want to get involved in a relegation 6 point. Like anything could happen in this kind of game where you've got two teams that are scrapping for the lives. You could get an early red card for Burton. It could flare up. You could get 2 red cards, one for each team. Anything like that can happen, and then all of a sudden your 10 to 11 looks way too short. And Cambridge, like they've, I know it's you can't just build a massive case around this, but against the bottom 5 this season, they've only lost 3 of 7. So against the teams that are as shit as them, they're actually doing okay. They've won 4 of those. So won the last 2 away games as well.
I think that, you know, like the seasonal records is out the window at the minute. The like recency is more important at Cambridge. The thing that just had me slightly wary of them, I like, to be honest, when Tom said the price, I'd like the price for Burton because I do like them. But Cambridge have done really well since they brought Harris in. And that's the thing that has me edgy. I mean, you just go through the past results and like narrowly beaten at home by Leyton Orient, won at Huddersfield. I know Huddersfield are really bad. Narrowly beaten at home to Charlton, beat Shrewsbury, drew with Wrexham, drew with Northampton, drew with Barnsley, narrowly beaten by Peterborough, in-form team in the league. It's a really good run of form. So it's going to be a really, really tight one. But I definitely wouldn't be saying this as a no. Because I really like Burton. I think they've been fantastic since January or February, whenever it was he came in.
I'd say then, if you want the 2 that we mentioned there, Stockport and Crawley, it's a 27 to 10 treble. Double.
An extra 2.
Twofold.
Yeah, I like those 2. Yeah,
we could.
Yeah.
Lock them in loosely. A loose lock on those 2.
I thought you were going to say let's shake hands and get out of here.
Yeah, let's just, you know what, I'm happy with that.
This is hard work today, isn't it?
It is, yes.
It is a tough one. I tell you what, then, we'll have a little recap or a little break before we dive into League 2. But the 2 we're happy with so far, then, we've got Stockport to beat Lincoln and we've got Crawley to beat Northampton. Provisionally, at the moment, it could all change. I doubt it. But that double, twofold, is 27 to 10. We'll discuss League 2 next. 2 teams locked in then so far, the 2 teams that I mentioned there from League 1. League 2 or anywhere, to be honest. Where else could we go to kind of bump up the price a little bit?
So there's been a couple of times this season, Tom, where I've gone outside of the Premier League and EFL. Sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't. Tamworth come through a couple of times, let us down a couple of times, similar with Forest Green and York. Gone to Scotland and had, I think Hearts have delivered before, Wraith Rovers have let us down. So I always try and like scour around, especially when it's a difficult week. I was looking yesterday and I couldn't believe that Rangers are even money to win at St Mirren. And it's not like it's not a team that we don't cover in our everyday job, especially because we cover the Europa League on sportinglife.com. And you never see the Old Firm at even money to win a league game. You just do not see it unless they're playing one another. And Rangers are in like a real state of flux at the moment because Barry Ferguson's in interim charge. They did really well in the Europa League, and their form has completely fallen apart at home. But away from home, they are still picking up really strong results. So they had a 2-2 draw at Aberdeen in a mad game. People have seen the scenes the other day with the sending offs and the mad celebrations. And Aberdeen, alongside Hibs, are both on brilliant runs in the Scottish Premiership this season. Before that, Rangers won the last 6 matches away from home. The previous match that they hadn't won away was against Man United in the Europa League, where they conceded a last-minute winner. So last-minute, goal to lose. For them to be even money away at St Mirren, who just snuck in when they did the split, for people that don't know, in the Scottish Premiership, where they go 6-6, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I think it's a massive overreaction to the fact that the lots and lots of supporters of the Old Firm clubs, Rangers in a bit of disarray, but it's all the pressure on them at Ibrox that they seem to be wilting under. So you look at their recent home form, and they actually got a brilliant battling draw at home to Athletic Bilbao in the Europa League, but they lost at home to Hibs, lost at home to Fenerbahce in the second leg of that Europa League tie, lost at home to Motherwell, lost at home to St Mirren, lost at home to Queen's Park, which ended up costing Philippe Clement his job, really. But away from home, they're still a really, really strong team. So I think we want to be jumping on that because it's just completely incorrectly priced.
I can get on board with this. I think at the price, it's definitely worth a go, isn't it? And, we spoke about the 27-10 double treble that I spoke about before, but an actual treble, above 6-1, this would take it to. And like you say, I know there's a few kind of injury doubts and stuff for Rangers, but it's, and St Mirren have just lost a striker as well, I believe, went to the MLS. That was confirmed yesterday. So it's a big price. It's a big price without the pressures of Ibrox as well.
It is a big price, but not to continue the theme of disagreement. I don't think Rangers are playing well enough to deserve backing at this price. I know they're winning matches, but the underlying data in those games against rubbish teams has been really bad. You only have to look at the number of goals they're conceding to know, like 3 against Dundee, obviously Celtic scoring twice, Hearts once, Kilmarnock twice. But the XG data stands up as well. Like they're conceding an average of around 1.8 XG in the last 6 away.
I know
matches.
what he's doing here, because now if it wins, then we're all happy because the Acca wins. But if it doesn't, he's sorted himself out.
Distanced himself
from us going north of the border when our usual hunting ground is the Premier League and EFL. It's a smart play.
That's not entirely what I'm trying to do.
You've got to respect it.
But yeah, I know there's some caveat to these numbers with obviously midweek European games perhaps affecting that, but at the same time, like they're not playing for anything. Rangers, they're going to finish second. They're just conceding too many goals to trust. And I know that St Mirren are not very good, but like you said, they were celebrating just making this split. Imagine what the scenes would be like if they get something against Rangers. Like, it's going to be a bit of a cauldron.
That tells me they're shit enough that they can't believe they've made the top 6. Oh my God!
Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe. Yeah, but Rangers.
I think if you're playing for Celtic or Rangers, as much as this might sound like a cliche, you're playing for something every game, because when you don't win a match playing for one of those clubs, it is a disaster. The amount of abuse and media coverage that they'll get for not winning a solitary match is so enormous that they're playing for something every single time that they play. It's not like playing for any other club, really.
I think, I'd say
they're not going to be like on the beach going play at 80%. It's just totally different world.
Credit to St Mirren. I think this is maybe the second or third year I think they've managed to sneak into that top 6, and obviously they have beaten Rangers recently. It's just a price thing, surely, isn't it? This is kind of what is making me go, I'll take the risk on it. If it was like a 4-7, 1-2 sort of thing, I would be well clear. But it is that just Scottish football is Celtic and Rangers are always the one that do have a daft laugh and,
So the last time
entertain us a little bit.
The last time these two teams have played, St Mirren
won 2-0, didn't they?
They won 2-0 at Ibrox, 2-1 at St Mirren. Like that straight away is enough for me to just go, I'm not going anywhere near.
When did they play Rangers though?
They played them in Ibrox was February and St Mirren was Boxing Day.
So they played them then. I'm just wondering.
Even the first meeting, because they played each other like 12 times.
Oh yeah, it was nowhere near European ties.
So, Rangers only beat them 2-1. So the St Mirren have held their own against Rangers every time they've played them. Even last season, they only lost by a single goal. I don't think we should be going near Rangers at the state that they're in at the moment. I know what you're saying about the pressure, but this is a lost season anyway. There's no more pressure that can be put on them because they're not going to win the cup. They're not going to win the Europa League. They're not going to win the league. They're just cruising. They don't even have a manager. Like they've still got an interim manager. Like
we need teams here. I need teams.
I think Chesterfield.
We can't do anything.
I think Chesterfield to beat Morecambe 1-2 is short, but if you put them and Blackburn in, we might be near tens. Chesterfield are still chasing the playoffs. Morecambe are relegated already. It could free Morecambe up a bit, but I mean, like Colchester and Salford, who are 8th and 9th, they play each other, so it's a great opportunity for Chesterfield to, if they win this game, they're going to go above one or both of them, and they are right on the doorstep of the 7th spot going into the last game of the season. So yeah, they were really good last time out against Bradford. They fought back with this 3-1 down, fought back to 3-3. Been better at home of late as well. Won 8 of the last 14. Just 2 defeats, only 1 defeat across 11 in total. And Morecambe, they're toast. So 1-2, one of those that's a better team versus a worse team, but also a team that needs to win versus a team that doesn't.
Chesterfield and Blackburn adding to the 2 teams that we're already going to take, which is Crawley and Stockport, to remind you, because I know we've said a lot of teams. Those 4 as a fourfold would be above 8-1. If this is what we're kind of having to settle on, because
let's talk about Carlisle.
The tone that you can get is that it's I know it's a line we say a lot, but it does feel, particularly this weekend, there's a lot of teams playing each other who are near each other in the table, or there's a lot of the dead rubber games where there's not a great deal to go at. And as you can tell from the long, lengthy kind of debating back and forth, dismissing teams, etc., that's the situation we're in. And the more I look at it, the more I am inclined just to go, Chesterfield to beat Morecambe, fine, they're still in the playoff hunt. Blackburn somehow are still in the playoff hunt against a Watford team. Who
it feels like at least there's a methodology there. Do you know, if we're backing teams that are in good form, that have got something to play for, that if that gets chinned, then you kind of put your hands up. But chancing it on matches where both teams have got nothing to play for, you're kicking yourself if that busts your Acca, really.
Yeah, they shake hands on a 3-3 or something like
that. Those 4 teams, I feel like you can get behind it and think that they make sense as selections.
I agree.
So I would be more than happy. Obviously, we'll be more confident.
Yeah,
with Acca as we built this season, but this is a really, really tricky weekend. It's tricky at this point of the season anyway.
We were laughing before we started, like some of the prices. We've not mentioned Walsall 4-7 to beat Accrington. They've won twice in 23 league games. So that's half a season they've won twice, and they are 4-7 to win a football match. It's just all priced on the fact that they need to win. You're just not going to go near it.
We take those 4 and wrap it up.
Let's do it.
I think that's what we're going to have to settle on, aren't we? Then after big back and forth and everything in between, the teams that we've decided on, the make up our fourfold for the penultimate weekend of the EFL season. From the Sky Bet Championship, we're taking Blackburn to beat Watford. In League 2, in League 1, I should say, there's 2. We've got Stockport to beat Lincoln and Crawley to beat Northampton. And then in League 2, it is Chesterfield to beat Morecambe, and those 4 together coming out at above 8-1. Remember to keep it fun, never bet more you can afford, and please gamble responsibly. We promise you we like the fourfold. I know it's going to be a tough sell at the moment. I don't know. We've settled on the 4 teams that we actually do like in this slate. As ever, head to sportinglife.com/football. Midday on Friday, you'll be able to find the link to back that and God knows if we do a longer one this weekend, but there may be something there.
Oh, I think we will.
Okay, then.
I like that Burton bet, mate. And be more on the website, but yeah, Carlisle to win at Cheltenham is one that if we'd not already been speaking for 2.5 hours, then I probably would have squeezed in somewhere. But there's definitely a few there. But I mean, it is a tricky weekend.
You can find the link to back the actual Acca and any longer Acca on the site midday Friday. And if you haven't already, please follow, rate us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your chosen podcast provider. Final week of the season. I've not even looked at the slate, but for the love of God, can it be better next week for us, please?
Could we do a goals one next week?
Why don't we let's see how this weekend goes.
When this one wins, then we'll be sticking on the one.
Well, whatever happens, we will be back next week.